All right, do you want to do a roll call?
Yes, I will. So John Bridges,
Here.
Francisco Stoller.
Here.
Stephanie Finley.
Here.
Molly Olson,
Here.
Cassandra Olvin,
Here.
Don Clements,
Here.
Luke Neff,
Here.
Lonnie Parrish, don't see her yet, and Philip Higgins.
Here.
All right.
All right, so our next item on our agenda is the consent calendar, which is just approval of those November 30th, 2021 minutes. Did anybody have any changes, additions, subtractions, anything like that? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
Oh, moved, John.
All right, thank you, Molly. And a second.
I would second it.
Thank you, Phil. All right, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Same sign. That's unanimous. All right, so I was reviewing this stuff over the weekend, and I'm going to turn it over to Doug to give us kind of a rundown of things. I was trying to figure out if we could just decide everything tonight and not have to meet on January 25th, you know, being an optimist and all. So I communicated with Doug about that. And in fact, we cannot do that. We have to choose the list tonight, then they need to go and update the plan. And then we'll get the plan shortly before the 25th. And then we'll have to approve the plan and refer it on to the different organizations. And if life goes correctly, I'll be at that meeting, but in Kauai. So that's why I was trying to get rid of that meeting. Just
There was a personal motive.
yeah. Absolutely. Okay, take it away, Doug.
All right. So I think I'll just start with, we do have two new members of the committee tonight. So Luke Neff is now representing the school district, and Philip Higgins is representing the Chamber of Commerce. And so they were appointed by council. So they're helping us through this month. So thank you very much, gentlemen. I appreciate it.
Well, and Philip was here last month. I thought Luke was in on the meeting, but maybe not participating last month.
He was not official.
Okay.
And so now we have a full contingent of 9. So we're back to being fully memberized, I guess is one way of saying it. Okay, so let me see here. Everybody see that? Okay. So I'm going to go through basically the PowerPoint mirrors what you have in your packet this evening for the work that we've been doing that we outlined we were going to do back at the end of November. So the new 2022 project cost amount is just a little over $70 million. So there have been increases. There was increased assessed value. There was some new development that we've talked about before that was in process. There were some houses in the River Run subdivision. There was an apartment project that got completed. Both those projects started clear back when we started doing the urban renewal work. So Nick has gone back through everything. Of course, we had the issue last spring where we had the re-establishment of assessed value for the mill site based upon their tax appeal. So all of that information was taken into account. So back in November on the 30th, I also mentioned that we would follow the hierarchy that the committee had established, looking at priority of what we would do for public infrastructure. So the first of those was that industrial development. All the work that the committee has done, that's the real driver in this. Then commercial development, which is both in the riverfront area and in the downtown. That mixed use development, again, in both the riverfront and the downtown. the multifamily development, which can be both, again, in the riverfront area and the downtown portion. And then, of course, lastly was the single family development. So as we went through this, Brett and I, and Brett is here tonight, so he can help because he was the number cruncher. He's the keeper of the spreadsheet. We have gone through annexations. So we annexed the 5 parcels that were south of 14th Street. Those are now in the city limits. The council adopted the ordinance annexing the portions of the properties of the mill site that are within the urban growth boundary. And we also annexed the portions of the bypass that were outside of the city limits. There were some parcels that did not get annexed. They did not desire to. There was one off of Waterfront Street. There was one off the very end of Waterfront Street, the old landfill site, Rogers Landing, the Richardson property off of Weatherly and College, another one off of College, and then one off of Winooski. So as we went back and we're looking at all of that, the Blaine Street, and we'll get into this in a little more detail, we had to drop about 600 lineal feet of Blaine Street out because it's outside, would be outside the proposed urban renewal area. For sub-area B, when we get to that, the Esplanade. So that portion, basically along the frontage of the landfill site going out to the end of the cul-de-sac will be removed, but we did keep the price in. Brett and I talked about just with slope stability analysis and so forth, and so we left the dollar value in. Brett went back through the Seattle Engineering News record and did the inflationary cost from 2020 to 2022. And so that was a 9.6% increase in project costs, roughly over that 2-year period. So in sub-area A, so this one, it supports the industrial development. The additions here are really related to, all 3 are related to Dog Ridge Road. And so that would be the very southeastern boundary of the mill site property. So it had 3 components to it: the roadway itself, which was a little under 1.6 million, stormwater, a little under 900,000, and then, 697,000, and then some storm in Winooski Street that we were not able to capture the first time, and so we added that. So this is the map of it, and so what we're really talking about, here's this element of Dog Ridge Road that we added, and then that Winooski storm piece basically falls in this area within the right-of-way. So that is one of the proposed, or 2 of the proposed changes in that area. It keeps the east-west road, the Bluff Road, and it keeps the Esplanade as was discussed last spring. In sub-area B, this one supports the commercial and the mixed use and the multifamily. And so, as I mentioned, we deleted the westernmost portion of the Esplanade, but we did keep the dollar value the same to address the issues with the slope that we're going to have to evaluate.
Let me interject here for a second. It's going to be probably easier if people have a question while you're talking about the sub area.
Sure.
So back on sub area A, just that, can you just in a couple sentences tell me what you guys believe adding Dog Ridge Road does to promote that industrial development, or hierarchy 2 or 3?
So what it does in here, we've been working with CDC and essentially have created a 4-lot pattern. So a larger lot here, a lot in here, a lot here, and a lot here. So this particular lot here, it can have access that would come out to get to Winooski Road. This lot that we're looking at here, this one could also use either this road, or it can come back out to get to Winooski Road. So it gives them some multiple ways to get in and out for their goods and services, their trucks, and their employees.
So greater transportation flexibility.
Connectivity. Yeah, it gives her more transportation connectivity, more ways to move traffic in and out. It all does go back to Winooski, which then goes out to Highway 219. So we have been working with ODOT as part of phase 2A ensuring that the realignment of Winooski Road occurs so that it will line up with the intersection of 219 and Wilsonville Road. And that's kind of really important. Did not want to get caught in a situation that development starts and ODOT says, oh, now somebody needs to go out and spend $1 million on a temporary traffic signal at the existing Winooski 219 when Winooski is going to get realigned. So we're trying to cover all of our bases and check all of our boxes. We're having all the conversations with ODOT.
Okay, does anybody else have a question about the proposed addition in sub-area A? All right, thank you.
So B, this is the area where the Esplanade would get removed. It's still retained in our transportation system plan. It just means that it would get delayed until some activity occurs with the old landfill for some repurposing, redevelopment, park, whatever it may be. We will have to there's one little parcel here that's not annexed, but there's some room on the top of the slope when we can bring that path on this property that was annexed in to get it out so it would connect with Waterfront Street. So that's the only change that we had in sub area B. Questions?
To be clear, this is because we had to remove the county property from this due to their lack of willingness to move ahead.
Yep, the old landfill is not annexed. They indicated
Right.
they did not want to annex, and the Esplanade would have actually, because the road would have gotten wider, and the Esplanade would be on the south side of the road, so it would be outside of the urban renewal area.
Thank you. Oh, and Doug, one quick thing, and it can be for later. If Brett, what's the cost of doing that path? You kept the cost the same, but I think you knew the delta for doing that part of the path that we will not be able to fund through urban renewal. We'll have to CPRD or the county or someone will have to come up with the money. Do we know what that number is? And don't hold up the whole meeting for that, but I would be very interested in understanding that.
I'll write a note and let Brett look.
Thank you,
I was
Brett.
I was gonna say, so Molly, so I understand your question correctly. You're sort of asking by the county not wanting to participate in the urban renewal area, what's the future exposure to the connectivity of that particular site?
Oh, really? If you want to finish the Esplanade, the county now has to come up with that money on their own. And
Yes,
so what's the bill? You
right.
know, in
I
a
think-
general number, Brett, not down to the
Yeah.
penny.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
just-
curious too.
Yeah,
It would probably roughly in about the $170,000 range.
correct.
Thank you.
All right. So sub area D, additions and deletions here. So again, this one supports multifamily. This one does support some single family. So in area D, we did include the sidewalks along 9th Street between Blaine and River Street. And so it's that multimodal pedestrian connectivity component at 95,000. Then also the ADA curb ramps along that same segment of road, which is a little over 800,000. And then again, we adjusted in the sub area D because we dropped about 600 lineal feet of Blaine Street, and that 600 feet could be funded with system development charges in the future and or contributions from development when that property develops. There's always a possibility later, who knows, is that, you know, that property wants to annex and the urban renewal agency could consider if they want to include that within the urban renewal district. That would take a different financial analysis for that 600 feet of roadway. I mean, something else would have to be given up, but we've got, Brett and I talked it through, we've got a couple of other potential funding sources to help fund that 600 linear feet. So here's the 9th Street sidewalk and ADA. Oh, I don't want to do that. Don't want to do that one either. So it's up here along 9th Street between Blaine and River Street. And then this roughly 600 lineal feet of Blaine Street that we've removed out of our cost estimates. by having this particular sidewalk in ADA, then it connects with what would be compliant along Blaine Street, along College Street, and then the improvements along River Street from 9th Street. And so this is all what feeds into that multimodal transportation piece when we were doing the Riverfront Master Plan to move people in and out the residential area just north of it, down into the riverfront area where the employment, commercial, and park and open space areas would be. Questions on that one? Okay. Sub area G. So this is over on Blaine Street. So as we were working through last spring and when we had to do the adjustments with the reassessed value of the mill site, we had to scale back our projects. And the area that we did that was we dropped various elements of the Blaine Street. We kept a stormwater project. With the new numbers, we're able to add back improvements along Blaine Street, water line improvements along Blaine Street. And remember, Blaine is the street where we have some R3. So this plays into this multifamily, higher density redevelopment, infill opportunities. The other missing component of the stormwater in Blaine Street. And then as we're doing sidewalks and so forth, it's also those ADA ramps along Blaine Street between 3rd and 9th Street, roughly. So there really wasn't a whole lot to do with the graphic because we already had it. This was Blaine here again from 3rd to 9th. It's just adding back all of those other projects we dropped last spring. Questions on that one? I think one of the things it's important to remember is we have 3 primary transportation corridors coming in and out of the riverfront area: Winooski, River, and Blaine. And so there was a theme, I put this in the memo, is these multimodal transportation improvements along Blaine Street from downtown all the way to College Street to be able to move workers and residents and so forth in and out of the riverfront portion of the proposed urban renewal district.
Just real quick, and again, I know we don't know is a perfectly good answer, but I would assume anecdotally that Blaine is probably the heaviest use in terms of foot traffic.
We also have a lot of students. And so Brad has a separate project he's working on the safe routes to schools. And so we already did get some grant money to do some work out there for some sidewalks. Brett can talk more about that. Brett?
Yeah, that particular project is sidewalks between 5th and 6th on the east side there, kind of completing the gaps in that piece of it there.
But we do have a lot of students because we do have Edwards Elementary that's there. And of course, there's the donut. Remember, you know, the school properties and so forth that were part of that donut. But we do have a lot of pedestrians that move back and forth along Blaine Street and 9th.
Nice to keep them out of the street.
Yes, it would be. Other questions? Okay. So sub area H. So there was a lot of conversation before because we had the road diet and what was in was First Street. There was not funds available to do the other portion of the road diet, which was Hancock, which is effectively from College Street to the east end of the west end of the couplet. And so with the new numbers, we were able to propose to put back in the road diet portion between College and the west end of the couplet. There's also a water line that goes along with that. And then there are some ADA curb ramps again back on Blaine Street between 1st and 3rd for that transportation corridor. So the graphic here on this one, so here's College. So here's the road diet portion along Hancock to the west end of the couplet. And then from 1st to 3rd are those ADA ramp components along Blaine Street. Questions on that? Okay. So the staff recommendation on this is that the urban renewal project list that we presented to you tonight, which is in attachment 1 of your actual packet, be voted on or recommended as the project list for the urban renewal plan. As the chair had indicated at the beginning of the meeting, we kind of have this one night to go through the project list and do the update so that we can get the material back to our consultant team who's already working on revising the plan. They're waiting for the final project list. They have the draft that's in your packet tonight. And then I got to work with GIS and they've got to redo the maps based upon my markups that I've done. So we have the quality maps to go back into the plan and the report as well. So that whole packet can be back in front of you at your January 25th meeting, where we would be looking for a recommendation from the committee. The recommendation hopefully would be consistent with the one that you did last spring, is to recommend to the Urban Renewal Agency that they start the confer consult process with the taxing districts and that the city council adopt the urban renewal plan.
So let's, are there questions of staff?
I have one more, Doug, and I think I brought this up last time, so I apologize if you already answered it, but the additional cost to revise the package to the city, ballpark number?
Around $20,000 for
So is it
consultant.
consulting?
It was all consultant services with Elaine and Nick to redo the plan and the report, and then with our surveyor to completely redo the legal description boundary. So there will be donuts in this district. So you'll have that. Let me go back up here. So we're going to have this donut here in between River and Blaine, which we talked about extensively as we were going through the process. Then we're going to have, go the other way, Douglas. We're going to end up with a donut in here in this property. We're going to have a little donut right here in this property. We're going to have this property, and the landfill will end up being a donut. Kind of at the edge, but consider the donut. Rogers Landing will be a donut. And then we don't have, let me try this one more time. Maybe I can get to it. And just off of the map right here, off of Winooski, there was a property that was split. Half of it was in the city limits and half of it was out of the city limits. And so when we tried to look at doing a donut, it was such an odd looking map. It was confusing everybody. So I said, just completely take out that entire property. So that'll just be an edge piece. It's really not a donut.
So that will, and then the cost to city employees, Doug, yourself, Brett, redoing.
We don't keep track of our staff time to do that.
Um,
It's a cost. It's just hourly. I mean, Brett and I are salaried employees. We just do our work.
no, I do understand.
So when I do my next application for a land use thing, then I don't have to pay for your guys' time.
Well, you do. We just don't charge it by the hour.
Yeah.
As some jurisdictions do.
I think an understanding of man weeks would be fine.
Mhm.
You understand the dilemma that I have, which is conveying to our constituents the loss of your time to redo a project that was done. And your time, your department and Brett, engineering, is not overflowing with extra resource. We know that. So, and later.
I don't have that one off the top of my head,
No.
Molly. I mean, could I go back and look at every day since
No,
we
no.
reinvigorated this and said, okay, I spent this many hours on it.
Ballpark it.
it.
I don't think we want them to spend more time on figuring out.
No. But if you have a ballpark idea, I would welcome it.
All right. Putting that beside, are there any other questions of staff? Okay, then what I would like to move on to is a discussion about the recommendation. I'm interested in hearing people's points of view on the recommendation. Who wants to start?
I can say that I I don't really have much of an opinion after we've kind of gone through this entire process and then had a couple hangups. I mean, this seems fine. I mean, I'm in agreement with it, so I don't have nothing pops out at me that I think that we should change or anything, but maybe if somebody else does.
All right. How about Cassandra?
I agree. I think it looks really good. I'm glad you were able to add back a couple of things. And I think that the tack that you took with the city as far as not going through a vote and doing the annexations was excellent. Good job pivoting. So I'm ready to make a motion unless there's other discussion.
Unless somebody has discussion, I'd certainly entertain that motion. Hearing none, why don't you go ahead and make a motion?
All right, well, I'd like to make a motion that we recommend the proposed package of urban renewal projects with a recommendation to the city council to adopt that so that the plan can move forward for implementation
I'd
and
second that.
conference of the overlapping taxing districts.
I'd second that.
All right, and is that, Doug, in your mind, is that a satisfactory motion?
Yeah, that works. We'll come back again on the 25th and I'll write something out specifically on
Yeah, because that.
the
you're
referral
kinda
to the
doing-
agency.
Yeah,
But
you're
right
kind
now
of
we're
doing
just-
the 25th. I think what we're really doing is moving to approve the revised project list. Isn't that really?
Yes.
Would you accept a amendment to your motion, Cassandra, that's what the motion is?
Yes, that sounds far better.
Okay, and Philip,
Yep.
will you agree to second that?
Absolutely.
Excellent. Any further discussion? All right, then all those in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Same sign. All right. We've accomplished that new business. Do we have any public comments?
Mary, is there anybody out there that in a waiting room?
I'm seeing none at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any further items from the staff?
None.
And does anybody on the committee members have anything else to mention? All right, well, thank you for doing the hard work of redoing this project list. I'm so excited that the Hancock diet is part of this. That's my favorite piece of it. I'm sure the other stuff, the stuff that's underground will do great stuff for our industrial development, but it's hard to get excited about that stuff. All right, then hearing nothing further, I guess we can adjourn, right?
We can adjourn, Mr. Chair.
All right, let's adjourn then. Everybody, thank you for your time.
Thank
you
you.
all.
Thanks,
Good job.
guys.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Night.